To them, you're just a freak. Like me. They need you right now. But when they don't, they'll cast you out. Like a leper. See, their morals, their code. It's a bad joke. Dropped at the first sign of trouble. They're only as good as the world allows them to be. I'll show you. When the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other. See, I'm not a monster. I'm just ahead of the curve.
Hello again and welcome back everybody to another edition of the Rural Report. I am your Rural 2IC, and what you just watched there was a clip out of The Dark Knight between the Joker and obviously Batman. And I know I get this a lot when I use these little clips, which, by the way, for legal purposes, I don't own rights to Batman, so there you go. But we're going to have a little rural talk about this. And I get these a lot whenever I use these clips. Are like, oh, they're Hollywood and Hollywood's evil and all this other stuff. And okay, let me share this with you. You use what you have available, okay? And so, yes, if you are going to watch make believe, scripted, pretend movies or books or whatever, it doesn't mean that you can't use that to your advantage. It doesn't mean that you can't take away something from it. You just have to be free minded enough to take out of it of what is useful for you. And so in this one, in that very short, like 40-second little scene, there's a ton to unpack in there. Now it begins where he says, you're a freak just like me. And that these people, they're just using you because, when the situation, whatever it is, they're just going to cast you out. Okay, now that brings into what it is. You backtrack years ago, there was so many people, the normies, if you will, that would look at the prepping community and they would laugh. Oh, they're freaks. We're not going to experience anything that you're going to have a month's worth of food or 6 months worth of water or all this other stuff. You were a freak. You were cast out. You're not like us, until a situation happens and all of a sudden they need you. They look at you and they sit there and they ask for everything. They're like, oh, please save us. Almost kind of like in the biblical sense of Noah's Ark. What happened? Hey, Noah's like, you know what? We're going to build a boat. And everybody's like, wow, you're crazy. And they laughed at him. They ridiculed him all the way up until all of a sudden, we need a boat. And, take it for what you will. I'm sure you've read the story or at least heard of it. And so it goes through into this. So you have to be careful and you have to start your vetting process now. You can't have it to where you have somebody that is going around with the norms of society and, hey, the government will take care of us. There's programs, there's this, there's that. You don't have to prepare for anything. That's just, crazy nonsense stuff. And so you have to start your vetting process because we go into the next part of that clip. The first little drop of a problem and civilized people will eat each other. And I agree with that. Take a look. I mean, you don't have to think very far back. When there was a small problem in the supply chain, what was the first thing that people went after? Well, they went after and tried to hoard toilet paper. Not food, not water, not medical supplies, not self protection, nothing that would scream of importance. Toilet paper. And it's one of them things, if you go to just about any of these online prepping checklists, things that you should have, most of them don't have toilet paper on there. And I wonder why. Because if you give it about half of a second to think about it, you don't need toilet paper to live, okay? It's a luxury item. Is it great and wonderful to have? Yes. Is there other things that you can do? Absolutely. So, when it comes to all this, when you start having all the different people that just laugh, the prepping community is nonsense, all this garbage that they just want to spill out and ridicule the community, it brings it into now's your time. Now's the time for you to vet the people, okay? Because really, you have the people that are actually full on belief. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing happened yesterday. Nothing happened the week before, the year before. So that means nothing's going to happen in the future. And if on that tiny little chance that something does, it won't be very long, or there's some agency, some emergency response that's going to come out, and they'll take care of the whole thing. Those are the type of people that get put into this category. Those are the ones that truly believe. Then you have the other ones that they're just, I want to say they have a little sense of ignorance in them. So they know that something could happen, and maybe they're that kind of borderline where they go, no, you probably should have more than a day or two's worth of food and water and things like that. They're good-hearted people. They just don't think that there's anything really long term, or maybe they think, hey, if there is a really long term, if you have the power grid go out for 6 months or longer, then you're not going to be able to prepare for that anyway. And so you get it. So now you get into that kind of split two-party system. Kind of weird that it goes into a two-party system, right? Now, in that clip though, it brings it into the line where he said that the world, or they're only as good as the world allows them to be. And that goes into that age old saying of, to keep an honest man honest, okay? If a human can do it, that means that pretty much everybody is capable of doing that thing in some form or fashion. So if you have it to where somebody breaks into a house and steals some stuff, every single person, for the most part, is capable of doing that. And the only thing that stops them is themselves. Okay. They have the choice. You and I, we have the choice to go do whatever we want. It's either, fear of retribution, getting in trouble, the consequence, whatever you want to call it, the fear of getting hurt or something like that, a moral obligation. Hey, I don't want that done to me. I'm not doing it to anybody else. There's reasons on why most of us don't do that. But when you start breaking down those civil services, so you start breaking down the police force to where there is no consequence, then all of a sudden the people that use that as their obligation not to do it, well, suddenly that's taken away. It's the same thing of having a $100 bill laying on the dashboard of a car, but the windows are up and it's all locked. Most people would look at it and just keep on walking by. Some people will walk over there and kind of investigate. Is the windows cracked a little bit? Is the doors unlocked? Can I get it? Nah, it's too much trouble. I'm going to go. Versus having it in a convertible with all the windows down and the top down. Now it's really easy. How many of those same people that looked and saw that the windows up and the car's locked, how many of those same people, if all the windows were down and the top was down, then it would take half a blink an eye to reach in there and snatch that thing? How many of them would still be on that list of, that's not mine, I'm not taking it? Suddenly it switches. And so when it comes to this, when it starts going into this, and forgive me, it is morning time, so a little bit of coffee there. So when it comes into this, when we have an SHTF situation, okay, you have a bunch of people, and I get it. If you've never experienced an SHTF situation, which I haven't experienced full blown, massive, all that. you can only go off of stories and your own thought processes behind it on what's going to happen. And so when it goes into something like this, at least for me and my thought process and all this, is that when society breaks down, you're going to have people do things that they normally would not do, either out of fear, out of hunger, thirst, safety, all things like that. And so it brings you into one, just because you're familiar with somebody. That's the lady that's down the street that walks her little dog, or that's the one guy that mows some of the people's grass or whatever. You know who they are. You may not have a relationship, you may not even know their name, but you know who they are. In an SHTF situation, just because they look familiar doesn't mean it's safe. Okay, and that's what I keep trying to stress is, in that time of peace where we're at now is the time to vet people, to make sure that you understand who they are. That doesn't mean that you're going to be 100% right. There is a thing called lying, and people are very, very good. They have kind of mastered that art to where they can smile, put on a really great show, act really good, and act for a long time, for years, doing good things. Hey, they come over and they let you borrow a cup of sugar. They may mow your grass while you're out on vacation. They may do this and that, and they come off as they're really great, nice people. And then all of a sudden, when everything hits the fan, suddenly, in their eyes, you are a resource on they want your resource. You're not the resource. They want your resources, I guess I should say. So you have to make sure that you are careful in that. And then to move forward into that, just because somebody appears to be innocent, we've discussed this before on this channel, on the way that you are going to take things morally. If you are in an SHTF situation, put whatever scenario in here, and you're doing your best, you're basically on your own, all that, and one day you look outside and there's a 6-year-old child standing in the middle of your front lawn, and it goes into such a huge controversy. Do you open your door and go out there and check on that child? It's a child, of all things, you kind of have to, don't you? Well, is it a trap? If you go to the really nefarious, worst case scenario, uh, there's a group of people that use this child to be bait and lure people out. So you come out to go check on that child, and the next thing you know, it's a big ambush, and there you go. That split-second decision where they use morals against you so they can gain access and basically loot, or worse, to you and your family or anything along those lines. But the thing is, when it comes down to these moral questions, is what happens if it's completely not nefarious? Okay. What happens if that really is just a lone child? What happens if there's nobody else for miles? They just happen to wander up into your property, and you're sitting there with that whole thing in the back of your mind going, this is an ambush. I can't go out there. I can't do this. Can you live with yourself? Can you sleep at night? Will that even cross your mind? Because remember, one of the biggest things that I harp, no matter what happens, humanity has to survive or there's no point. If everybody's against everybody, there's no point in survival. We are a communal species. We have to come together as people, regardless. Now, you have to separate. It doesn't matter whether it's the animal kingdom or whatever. You have that invasive species. You have those bad apples or whatever. Those need to go away. Okay, we do that. Somebody does something that is not a good thing. What do we do now as a civilized society? You put them in jail. You separate them from society. Same thing needs to happen even after SHTF. You get somebody that's coming in and destroying your stuff, stealing your livestock, doing different things or whatever. You've got to separate them. Hey, you know, You're putting my people, I guess is what you want to call it, my group, my mag, whatever. You're putting them in jeopardy. You're doing things wrong, and so you have to take care of that problem. And so to circle back, if you will, and to kind of just recapture into this little bit of the clip that we played. Right now, people are as good as society allows them to be. Okay. And it goes back into the choice. We have a choice. You've got a posted speed limit of 55. How many people drive 55 in a 55? Um, you've got, I mean, all sorts of things. Nobody's following you around into the gas station or into the supermarket that you can't take a candy bar and slick it in your pocket. There's all sorts of different scenarios that we can run into here, and you you have to decide for yourself, what are you going to do? And an SHTF situation is going to change everybody, and really it's going to be the people that can live through that and hold their morals and their values, to be able to go through and endure that time, to go through the process of an SHTF situation to the end of the SHTF situation, the rebuilding and getting back to civilization. The people that are going to be able to hold their morals and their values are going to end up being probably the next leaders, the people that emerge from the other side, even the people that are doing questionable things, even the people that dropped morals and values for whatever reason. When everything starts to calm and the dust settles, everybody's going to suddenly turn over and look at Mr. Smith, if you will, and go, you know what? That man right there, or that woman right there, or whoever, they held on. They kept things going. They were fair. They were just. They did things with integrity. They held on to morals and values. Those are going to be the people that, when everything goes, they're the ones that's going to emerge. And you're going to get into the people that are going around and doing very evil things, basically for their own gratification. You know, you can get into the moral dilemma and argument if you want on, is stealing wrong if you have a hungry child? Okay, you can argue that all you want. Okay, at face value, though, it's more into it for me. Whenever somebody comes to me with that whole thing, if somebody steals uh, food because they have a hungry child, is that wrong? Well, for me, in my thought process, one, what are they stealing? If they're stealing a big chocolate cake, it's really wrong, extremely wrong. Uh, and then two, what put them in that situation in the first place? Why can't you grow food? Why can't you do different things? Why is it that stealing became the first option, the first thing to mind? There's a huge, and I get it. You can argue things all you want. I get it, fully understand. But to bring this fully back so we can close this video out, when it comes down through all of this, okay, vet your people now. We do, at least at the time of me recording this, we have a small window, or hopefully a large window, but we'll see how it turns out. We have a window, let's put it that way, of an opportunity, and it's going to be what you do with that opportunity. Now, you can continue to prep, and okay, maybe that'll work out. You can ignore this advice and do whatever you're doing, and there you go. But I'm going to at least try and plant the seed. Even if you don't form a mag, you need to vet people. You need to know that when something happens, when that crisis arises, who can you turn to? Who can you trust? And you need to make sure and build on that. You need to be as rock solid as you possibly can. So that way you're not questioning it during an emergency situation. You are focused on whatever you need to do. With a task at hand needs to get done, you don't need that voice in the back of your head questioning. You need to be as sure as you possibly can. Now, I get it. Yep. People are, unpredictable. Uh, you can have somebody that you've trusted for the last 10 years suddenly just decide to make a stupid move. I get it. Okay. But you've got to do your best to be as sure as you possibly can. I've said it before. I'll say it again. You can have the person that takes classes over and over and over. They know their medical, they know their food, they know how to hunt and can and they have all these preps and they have 2 years of food and water and they've done everything that they can. Something will happen and it'll take them out. You will have that person on the flip side of this that they have to go and they eat out of the gas station every single day and they live penny to penny and partying and video games and everything is way more important. They'll make it through. Okay. uh, Sometimes dumb luck will get somebody through. Sometimes the best laid plan fails. Okay. uh, and you need to make sure you don't have that false sense of security. Do not think just because that you have knowledge, that you have preps, that you have all this stuff laid back and you feel good about it, that it is 100%. Okay. Because it's not. You're lying to yourself and that's dangerous. Continue to learn, continue to build, continue to make yourself better. Invest in you. Try and put yourself in the best position that you possibly can. It statistically will put you up here to where it gives you a much greater chance. But just remember, going into an SHTF situation, that person down here that has a 5% chance still can hit the lottery and that 5% can ride them through. Okay. So, all right, this has gone on long enough. I've yammered and gone off topic probably way too much, but that's what I've got for you. So, thank you so much for spending a decent amount of time with me. We haven't had a rural talk in a little while, and so I wanted to get back and have a few more of these. You guys really tend to enjoy these. These are just raw, unedited, straight off the top of my head, nothing scripted. Just here it is. I'm laying it out, and you take for what you want out of it. I hope that I brought something good and something of substance, something that will get you to think. So, with that, I'm going to say I hope you guys have a great day and a blessed day. Stay tuned because there's definitely more information to come. And with that, I want you to remember, please remember to remain united because we're all prepping in this together.